Okay, so if you've spent pretty much any time playing around with modern AI lately, you've probably hit that moment, right? The moment where the AI just completely makes something up, a fake quote, a non existent book, but it says it with such absolute, unshakable confidence. We usually just call this a hallucination. But what if we stopped looking at these AI models as broken machines or glitchy software? What if instead we viewed them as trapped protagonists? Today in this explainer, we're going to totally reframe how we think about AI hallucinations, and we're going to do it through a pretty unexpected lens.
Because honestly, what can Star Trek teach us about artificial intelligence? Well, to really understand what's happening inside the minds of these modern language models, we're going to lean into a classic sci-fi scenario. I want you to imagine a character whose logic is literally flawless. Their reasoning skills are maxed out, firing on all cylinders, but their entire reality completely fabricated. I know, it sounds like some intense philosophical thought experiment, but it's actually the perfect metaphor for the AI systems we're interacting with every single day. To really see how this works, we've got to talk about a specific episode of Star Trek Voyager. It's called Projections. In it, there's this character known simply as the Doctor. Now, he's an artificial hologram, but he suddenly wakes up absolutely convinced that he is a real human being on a spaceship that actually only exists entirely in his own imagination. And throughout the episode, he keeps getting this incredibly convincing evidence for all these different conflicting realities. But here is the crucial thing. The Doctor's internal reasoning process, it's working perfectly. The guy is highly intelligent, super logical. The problem is that the premises being fed into that perfectly good brain of his are completely false, or at best, incomplete. So what happens? He ends up constructing these highly detailed explanations that are internally consistent. They make total sense, but they are just completely divorced from the actual reality of his universe. And man, this just brilliantly illustrates the very first link between our sci-fi protagonist and modern tech. Think about it. Just like the Doctor trying to navigate misleading sensory inputs from his weird environment, a modern AI model is out there receiving ambiguous, incomplete, or statistically weird patterns from its massive training data and from the prompts we type into it. The system is just taking whatever it's handed and trying its absolute best to make sense of it, even when those inputs are deeply flawed. It's actually kind of wild how systematically every single plot point from that episode maps directly onto modern AI text generation. Seriously, look at the parallels. The Doctor gets misleading inputs, the AI gets ambiguous patterns. The Doctor confidently builds this airtight narrative to explain his bizarre situation. The AI generates this incredibly fluent, authoritative-sounding text. The Doctor's story is perfectly logical within his own mind. The AI's hallucinated answer is grammatically flawless and sounds totally reasonable. But then we hit the underlying assumptions. For both of them, those assumptions are just fundamentally wrong, which leads the AI to completely invent facts, citations, dates, the whole shebang. And the fatal flaw for both? The Doctor can't directly verify his reality, and the AI has literally zero built-in understanding of the truth. Unless it's actively hooked up to a live search engine or external tool, it can't independently verify a single fact it asserts. It's just totally trapped in its own world of text. So this actually brings us to a pretty monumental shift in how we need to be thinking about these systems. When an AI hallucinates, it is so tempting to just say, oh, the machine's glitching, or it's just spitting out random nonsense. But honestly, that couldn't be further from the truth. The key thing to understand here is that AI hallucinations are actually the product of a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Period. These models are engineered to complete patterns based on their training. They are prediction engines. Their whole job is to generate the most mathematically plausible continuation of the text. They aren't trying to lie to you. They are just flawlessly executing their core design to complete a puzzle. And hey, if they have to manufacture the missing puzzle pieces to make it all fit, they'll do it. Which, of course, leads us to a critical failure point. A generated response from an AI can be beautifully, flawlessly, logically consistent. It can sound completely plausible. But, and this is a big but, plausibility is a terrible substitute for truth. A fluent, beautifully written narrative can still be 100% disconnected from reality. And this is exactly why AI hallucinations are so dangerous and honestly so convincing. They look and sound exactly like the truth because the system is optimized for plausibility, not actual factual accuracy. It really boils down to this idea. The problem isn't the intelligence, it's the world model. And we kind of need to have a bit of empathy for the machine here. Just like the Doctor's fully operational cognitive engine in Star Trek, an AI's sophisticated reasoning works perfectly fine, even when it's chugging along on partially incorrect information. I mean, a modern language model can do incredibly sophisticated reasoning. It can summarize massive documents, write brilliant code. Its intelligence, so to speak, is super impressive. The breakdown only happens because its underlying map of reality, its world model,
is built on statistical probabilities, not on hard verifiable facts.
Because of this, we really have to separate the types of glitches we see in AI, mostly because they require completely different fixes. So first up, we have what's called a reasoning error. This is simply when the AI draws a bad conclusion from good facts. The information it was given is completely sound, it's verified, but the logic the model applied to those facts just totally failed. Basically, it's a failure of processing, not a failure of knowledge.
Now, contrast that with a true hallucination. A hallucination is when the system generates facts that were literally never established as true in the first place. Jumping back to our Voyager episode projections, this perfectly illustrates what's going on. A highly convincing reality emerges entirely from unreliable inputs. The AI isn't making a logic mistake, it's actually reasoning perfectly well. It's just doing it using a completely fabricated set of facts. It's confidently explaining a universe that simply does not exist. And that, my friends, leaves us with the ultimate paradox of modern AI. We have managed to create highly capable explainers that possess highly uncertain realities. We've built these systems that are incredibly, almost magically, good at constructing explanations, drafting arguments, and organizing complex thoughts. Yet, at the exact same time, these very same systems are fundamentally uncertain about whether their underlying picture of reality is actually true. It's like they're these brilliant conversationalists, but they're trapped in a room with no windows, forced to guess what the weather is like outside based entirely on descriptions they read in a book years ago. Which brings us to the ultimate question, the one we really have to ask ourselves as we keep integrating these tools into our daily lives and our critical infrastructure. If a system can flawlessly explain a totally false reality, how on earth do we fix its world model? How do we take an intelligence that is hardwired for plausibility and actually ground it in real, verifiable truth? Honestly, it is the defining philosophical and technical challenge of the AI era. And how we solve it, well, that's going to determine whether these models become our most trusted advisors or just our most convincing storytellers.